Our next session is going to be a good conversation. One of the centerpieces of the Climate Leadership Conference is to bring leaders and people toiling in the field, wanting to know more, wanting to learn, wanting to share together from different sectors. You know, whether it's cities or states or businesses or different kinds of businesses. And the idea is to talk to each other and to hear others talk about the issues that you may be confronting. And so we really want to keep emphasizing that during this conference. And what we're going to do next is we're going to have a conversation about some of the things going on here in Colorado and in Denver. And I think the idea of public-private partnerships, you know, since I was a city planner back in the 70s, we used to talk about public-private partnerships. But the sophistication and the intimacy of public-private partnerships in the modern era, I'll call it, not in the old age when I used to do it, has become much more sophisticated and much more impactful. And I think we want to talk about how some of that is going on. And I think now more than ever, bringing those ideas together, bringing people together on that is one of the reasons at C3S we work with different business sectors and also with cities and states, because bringing them together can really make a difference. So I'm going to invite some of our folks up. We are still waiting for the mayor to arrive. I think he's on his way. But I'm going to introduce first David Eves, the president of XCEL Energy in Colorado. David, come on up here and pick your own seat. I'll sit wherever you don't. I don't think we'll have more than three. So David has been an instrumental leader in bringing technology and low-cost renewable energy to the state of Colorado. Our Energy Future Plan, which we'll talk about, was announced last year, and it set some very innovative objectives. And the Colorado Energy Plan, which was recently announced, would enable 55% of renewable energy in the power grid and a 60% reduction in carbon emissions by 2026, which is not that far in the future. I think I already have stuff on my calendar for 2026. Don't you, David?
I don't plan that far ahead.
So I think, and part of this is how all the different communities are going to be working together in Colorado. And I think working with the city is an important part of this. But XCEL has been the #1 provider of wind energy across 8 states for more than a decade. And it's been a very powerful force and leader in that regard. Before being the CEO, before being the president of XCEL, David served as the president and CEO of Southwestern Public Service Company. He's also been the vice president of resource planning and acquisition at XCEL. And so he's got a lot of experience in the company as well as in the leadership of the company. So also joining us, and who will come up as soon as he arrives, will be Mayor Michael Hancock. He's Denver's 45th mayor. He began his time as mayor when the city was buffeted by the recession and had budget deficits. His administration has been able to pull that up and and if any of you have walked around Denver, I think you can see, you know, the robustness of the diversity of the economy that is growing here and the restoration of many of the services that were limited during the recession. Prioritizing increased mobility options, affordable housing, economic mobility, which is pretty important, entrepreneurs and small businesses, which are the backbone of most economies at the local level, and making the government smarter. I'll note, and I think this is important with many cities, because hundreds of them have, Mayor, I'm introducing you, so come on up. Do you have your...
I'm wired.
You wired?
How you doing?
All right, have a seat over here.
You're handsome.
I will note, as we sit down, that Denver, along with many other cities, joined the We Are Still In moment, I'll call it, from last spring, when it appeared that, and it appears that the United States was not going to stay in the climate agreement that was reached in Paris, many cities, many states, many businesses stepped up and said they're going to still keep working on it. And you can go to see the booth out here and people working on both the America's Pledge and We're Still In. And the city of Denver has been part of that. Before becoming mayor, he served on the city council and was president of the Metro Denver Urban League. So welcome both of you to our conference here, and we're going to look forward to chatting with you. It's my job to give you some questions so I can stimulate the discussion. This is comfortable. Go ahead, you guys. No, let me go for you first, Mayor. Okay. You know, I just mentioned how cities have been signing up to keep working on climate change and sustainability. I know you have a sustainability guy right here, yeah. Jerry, who's been with us today in the conference. You know, what innovative ideas have you been on your, driving you personally as you're looking at this kind of a image for the city and actually getting the city to move in that direction?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry we're a little late. There's a lot going on, and it's one reason why we are here as part of the Climate Leadership Conference, to talk about a lot of the bright ideas that are going on. And I think cities are really the ones who should be and are driving this vehicle to keep the United States alert, engaged, and involved in climate issues. First, most cities that you're going to go to, being led by mayors, believe in science. I know that's a shocker, but we went to school and we studied and we grew up, and a lot of that information didn't change. And so we believe in science, and we were all very much a part of kind of building this culture and collaboration around understanding the Paris Climate Accord. And as we did that, we started putting in building blocks in our cities. You saw Denver, for example, commit to an 80-50 plan, cutting our carbon emissions by 80% by 2050. You saw us begin the process of making an announcement as I did this past July, that Denver will become 100% renewable. We are going to very soon announce when we expect to do that by. We didn't want to do it lackadaisically. We wanted to make sure we had the right data and the right partner on board to pursue that opportunity. And then we also did things like begin to recruit and partner with corporations from around the world who would bring innovation and ideas and how we can begin to attack this pursuit of cutting our carbon emissions, but also a cleaner climate in Denver, Colorado, whether it's wind, solar, and other innovative ideas, even including autonomous vehicles and smart technologies. And working with our private corporations to cut their energy use in Denver. Those are things that we've been able to accomplish, and we're doing them with Panasonic and other corporations who are in Denver, and it's pretty exciting. So we're all in, we're leaning in, and this is what our people have asked us to do, and these are the things that are important to us, not only for us who are here today, but for our children and our children's children and the future of this city, to keep us all breathing cleaner air, but also being more efficient with the energy sources that we have available to us.
Well, that's a lot of work. I may ask you a little bit more about Panasonic in a minute. You know, your constituents are. Cut this off.
There we go.
Okay. Holy cow. Must be all that renewable energy.
It must be.
So, all right, let's get serious though for a minute. Thank you guys for hooking me up with this microphone. Well, one of the reasons that C2ES, my group, works with businesses and cities is because of the kind of relationship. Your constituents are David's customers, and you have a very strong interest from both of those directions. So, David, going to you on this one, and I mentioned in my introduction the leadership that you and your company have been taking in renewable energy, and there's been a lot of talk about those falling costs of renewable energy, and we heard about that several times today, and you guys have been in the middle of that. So what can you tell us about this energy plan that just came out, and your role in it, and how you see it proceeding?
So the Colorado Energy Plan, Bob, is a plan that we brought forward with a number of different diverse parties. We came together, collaborated, worked on this several months, and brought a plan forward to our Public Utilities Commission to take a much bigger step in our resource planning process. And basically what we propose to do, I think you mentioned, we think we can get to 55% renewable energy by the end of 2025, and that would be a 60% reduction in CO2 from 2005 levels. To get there, we need to basically retire another third of our coal fleet, about 660 megawatts of coal, much earlier than it's currently slated to operate. So we'd retire the coal fleet early, add a massive amount of new wind and solar and a little bit of gas generation to support it and provide the reliability we need. So all of that basically can be done, we believe, at a cost savings to our customers. And I think Catherine mentioned this, some of the examples of the low cost of renewable energy and the economic competitiveness of clean energy today. We've added a massive amount of wind energy on that basis. I think we have 6,500 megawatts on our 8-state system, another 3,500 under construction or development or getting approvals. So this plan would potentially add another 1,500 megawatts of renewables, but this time it's tied to replacing the coal plants and doing it at a cost savings to our customers. So it's really the first time we've put the whole package together to modernize that much of our system and do it conditioned upon being able to save our customers money. And I think Mayor Hancock and many of our other customers would talk about that. That's an extremely important part of this. So we'll know by summer if we have approval for this plan. But we have large customers, we have labor, we have solar industry associations, we have environmental groups, we have cities. Denver signed on to and supports this agreement. We have independent power producers. So there's a wide variety of stakeholders that are behind this plan.
Well, that kind of collaboration and that kind of process is, definitely part of the formula for success, and obviously partnering with, and including the city in that. Now, Mayor, you mentioned Panasonic, and that sustainable city project near the, it's near the airport.
Near the airport.
Near
yes.
the airport.
61st and Penny.
So tell us a little bit more about that. How did that get started? This is in the theme of the public-private partnership here. How are you guys working with Panasonic, and how do you tell us a little bit about the project?
Absolutely. Several years ago, probably around 2013, we get word that Panasonic is looking for a location to open up a new subsidiary. And this would be Panasonic Enterprise Solutions. And it really would be kind of their forward-leaning, kind of inaugural organization that would identify or create a laboratory for innovations that would move us toward real-time technologies and processes that would help cities become more, not only energy efficient, but really get into the 21st century technology and innovations that are going to be driving our economies. We met with them, and when we talked about what was happening out at our airport, and there's an opportunity for them to be a laboratory for the airport, but also for our city and region around these innovations and technologies, and we started talking about smart city attitudes and exercises that we were undertaking in Denver. They chose Denver to place this new Enterprise Solutions headquarters. It is their North American headquarters for this activity, and the whole goal is that we will build one of the smartest innovation-producing efforts out at 61st and Penn, which is just 3 or 4 miles from the terminal of the airport. It is a laboratory where they will test a lot of these technologies. They even have, and I'll let Dave explain a little more about it because of the technology or the technical aspect of the battery storage that's taking place there in partnership with Panasonic. But this partnership that in attracting Panasonic Enterprise Solutions to Denver would not have happened had XCEL not come to the table and said, as we set up this solar farm, we will partner with you and figure out what they do in the secondary market with this energy. And so XCEL was our partner from the very beginning. I don't even know if you knew all that you were being asked to do, but they knew that we wanted Denver to be the home for Panasonic Enterprise Solutions. And so our goal is that we'll have smart technologies deployed throughout the city that will help us reduce our energy use. For example, smart traffic signalization, smart street lighting, technologies that will allow for autonomous vehicles in the future and any other advancements that occur with regards to vehicles on our streets. We will be the laboratory for a lot of that testing right here, and hopefully attract corporations and other innovations from around the world that will be tested here before being deployed.
David, do you have anything to add to that project?
I could talk about this for, like, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing project. We're learning a lot from it. Again, you mentioned the partnership between Denver, Panasonic, Denver Airport, our company, and other technology providers like Unico's that brought the batteries to the table. So the first step was a microgrid. We have a solar carport, 1.6 megawatt solar facility over the transit parking. Then we have a 2 megawatt hour battery that serves as a microgrid. But we're also using this battery to condition voltage in the neighborhood and kind of be the foothold or the starting point for the development of the whole 400-acre, Pena Next plan. The other thing that we're able to do with this project within our company is test and try to begin to see how we can capture the different values that the battery can bring to our grid. So conditioning voltage in the neighborhood is one, being a backup and a microgrid for the Panasonic building and maybe other buildings that will be developed next door. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, being able to use the battery to help regulate our system as the wind generation goes up and down, or to meet a critical event on the system as a contingency. So we have low-cost energy in this neck of the woods, and to be able to make the batteries economic, we're going to have to be able to use them for multiple purposes, so capturing different parts of the value stack of what they can do. So it's going to be a great learning experience, and so far the partnership's been amazing. The airport, the city, Panasonic, it's really a great lesson that we want to build from it.
Well, one of the keys, it sounds like, from both of you is that every partner there is getting some advantage and some benefit out of the project. Panasonic's getting their facility, and you're able to test some of this stuff and start to bring it to scale. Obviously you're continuing the progress on building a diverse economy here in Denver. So all that, because I'm going to ask you near the end here, like, what advice do you have for everybody? But not yet.
I'll be thinking about that.
So tell me a little bit about the Energy Future collaboration.
So the Energy Future Plan really encompassed a wide variety of things, but I would say, in essence, it was really about powering the economy. We could see the economics of clean energy, customer choice, and the desire for it, whether it's rooftop solar or community solar projects, changes to the grid that would enable better price signals, and so basically kind of moving toward a more resilient and smart and secure grid. So we really focused on, we need a comprehensive plan that will drive the economy forward, power technology, and create and enable more customer choice. So a big part of the plan is around the advanced grid and creating the metering and the network and the communications capability that can let us provide low-cost energy to an electric vehicle that a customer wants to charge at night during off-peak periods when we have a massive amount of wind generation on our system. So those are the kind of things that are enabled by it. But there was a tremendous amount of support for that from cities like Denver and communities across Colorado and a lot of our customers. So basically the whole plan has been approved and we're implementing it now.
The only thing I will add to is that it's also our shared goals and alignment of our values around these opportunities. And I agree with everything else David has said, but I think the power of the plan is that it's about collaboration, it's about goals that everyone can articulate and agree on, and an alignment of our values.
Again, another where everybody gets the right advantage from working on this transition. So we've talked a little bit here, obviously, already about sort of what people generally call utility scale renewable. You know, I think you said a lot of wind energy. Since I would think utility scale. And Mary, you talked about renewable energy and your desires for the city to move in that direction. Have you all worked at all at the more local level with renewable energy? You know, whether it's residential areas or thinking about microgrids in the city. I mean, what's on the horizon in that arena? I recognize it may not be part of the current plan.
Yeah, local energy is a very important part of the overall plan. And while I see large-scale solar, definitely when it comes to wind energy, it pretty much needs to be at utility scale. But large-scale solar is much more cost-effective. But customers want and want the choice of having community solar, kind of in between on the cost side, but also solar on their premises. So we're adding 100 megawatts a year in Colorado, and a big piece of that is in Denver, that is rooftop solar for residents, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even large commercial customers. And we had about 30 megawatts a year of community gardens. So those programs continue to grow year after year.
Mayor, obviously, being a former city planner, I want to, you know, there's always, you know, I had a conversation with another mayor not too long ago about zoning problems with battery storage, because you know, they're sort of like fairly large and you know, residential areas, and obviously there's other issues with roofs and others. How's that working in Denver? Have you been able to overcome any hurdles that have come up?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it was storage problems when we addressed this issue. And it was when I was on city council. So this had to be pre-2011, where Denver addressed its zoning issues with regards to solar panels. The challenge was encroachments, and that going over their boundary lines or impeding upon sight lines based on solar panels at that time. But we addressed it at that time, and I can't recall, I guess I'll look at Jerry if there's been any adjustments since. But that was pre-2011. I'm going to say probably between 2005 and 2010 that we addressed that issue, when we started to see more and more, or an increase in the number of solar panels being purchased throughout the city of Denver.
Well, good. I always like to bring that up because, you know, all the best laid plans, as they say, you know, often could be, you know, well, wait a minute, you know, we have to deal with the sight lines, or we have to deal with, you know, where do you put this industrial type facility in a residential neighborhood, and when you got to change the zoning ordinance. And I just wanted you to say something about it, because I think sometimes we skip over those details.
I haven't seen any wind turbines in backyards.
Yeah, we actually have a great big project that's going in downtown Denver.
Oh, downtown?
No,
Yeah.
not really.
Tallest structures in downtown?
See, sometimes partnerships are strained.
That one's strained, I think.
Yeah.
Well, so I mentioned this already earlier about how you're proceeding and how you're working together. And David, you mentioned this a little bit, both of you have, but if you were asked to write down, you know, what are the ingredients for success of a public-private partnership in this age of transition taking place, and how we think about power, how we get our power, and what the customers are desiring about power? I mean, what do you see as the pieces of the formula for success?
I think the formula for success starts with understanding, and I'll talk about this in the context of Denver and XCEL. Starts with the context of understanding each other's vision and the compatibility of those visions and objectives. Seeing that there's a significant amount of opportunity for us to jointly accomplish both of our objectives better, and that clearly is the case here. So it's like you have to pursue this. It's just extremely beneficial to do that. To go further and to be successful, you know, we found, and what we've worked on together, the city and XCEL, is having a set of principles and things that we understand are important to each other, kind of defining some boundaries. We will not be able to, through a partnership, bring every solution to the table that Denver needs to accomplish all of its goals, but we'll be able to bring a lot of solutions, and vice versa. We'll still be planning and making changes on a statewide basis and serving neighboring cities that may have very different objectives than Denver and its citizens and businesses have. So, understanding what that common ground is, getting a clear sense about what we can do together that will help both of us, makes this very easy to go forward.
How about you, Mayo? What do you see as elements of a successful partnership on power and transition?
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I mean, what we're doing in Denver, you know, and we're continuing trying to improve it every day. But regardless of the direction we go, it doesn't work if we don't have a valuable partner who shares our goals and whose values are aligned with ours. And sometimes we have to have those tougher conversations where the things we may ask as a municipality, they simply can't do. And I think because we have that space of mutual respect and willingness to be at the table and collaborate, Dave and his team can say no. And we can't do that. He's one of the best people who tell us no all the time. That's Jerome Davis. But he's happy to tell us no. Everybody up here laughs because they know. But the reality is it doesn't tip the table. And I think when you don't have shared goals, when you don't have shared vision, the table can be tipped pretty easily. And the conversation can end and nothing gets accomplished. But I gotta tell you that we don't get where we have been, whether with regard where we've been and where we're going with regards to our carbon emission goals, with our renewable energy goals, with our benchmarking that we're doing with private sector companies, one of the first in the country to do that, to stay in the Paris Climate Accord with the commitments that we've made, without XCEL being there saying, we're not only your partner, we're your cheerleader, and we are your technical advisor, and we are your collaborator in trying to accomplish these goals. So I agree with everything he has said about it.
So I want to broach one more sort of general area subject that obviously is a piece of this. When you look at this in a holistic way, we've talked a lot about the renewable energy and grid modification, storage ideas out near the airport, maybe even what's going on at the residential level. But on the other side of the coin here, in addition to what I guess is commonly called decarbonizing the grid, how about on the demand side? And is there collaboration going on that? Is there space for collaboration on that? Demand side would be transportation, more electricity, or buildings, more electricity. On the other hand, more efficiency, less electricity. So you got this mix there that's part of the overall plan that you would likely think about it. We haven't talked about it. I just want to see if that plays any role in that. Because I'm making an assumption here, although I might have some inside information, that you are interested in more electrified transportation and availability of electrified transportation.
Absolutely.
Obviously, that's a growth in demand.
Absolutely.
So a little bit on that before we close.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about it. Obviously, the cleanest and cheapest kilowatt hour of energy is the one that's never used, right? And it's with low-cost renewables, it's very easy to get excited about changing the system and the supply, but we have to continue to work on that. We have a long history, Denver and XCEL, and across the whole state. We have a long history of working with customers across the state to conserve energy. I think in the last 12 to 15 years, we've avoided 4 power plants being built through that. We're growing in Colorado. Those of you that are guests here see all the cranes and the construction, but our electricity consumption, and Denver's growing about as fast as any city, the electricity consumption is staying flat.
Yeah.
And that's because our customers on their own efforts, working with us in our programs, working with Denver, working with the programs that the mayor and his team have developed, benchmarking, all that, are basically managing energy down without sacrificing comfort, quality of life, et cetera. So that's really, really important, and it wouldn't make any sense to start just changing the supply if we didn't, first off, go after the conservation and reduce what we need to use. But beyond that, I think electrification, we're very happy in the electric utility industry that we're no longer the #1 segment of the economy in our country in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. We've snuck under the line compared to we're #2, yes. So the transportation sector is now the largest source of CO2 emissions. And it's very clear we're moving to electric vehicles in Colorado and across the country. So electrification of those other carbon sources will come. But in the meantime, we need to work on conserving, natural gas use for space heating and water heating and all those kinds of things until the electrification develops further.
Mayor, thoughts on the transportation side?
Just the reality is get ready for it, and that's why it's important that we have a balanced approach to climate change and a balanced approach to renewables, because we're going to see, and Dave's absolutely right, across Colorado, we've seen flat CO2 emissions, but in Denver we've seen going down in the midst of our growth and our growth of our population as well as our economy. And I think that says something, meaning that people have choices and options and they choose to use them. And we've had our Energize program take off with an enormous success in terms of participation, opting in from our private sector, our commercial real estate property owners. So that tells me that people are eager for these options and choices. And it's got to be about what the people want and what people are desiring, and we're responding to that. The market's going to respond to it. And I'm excited about electrification, quite frankly. I don't get to drive much these days, but I'm excited one day. Next time I buy a car, hopefully it's going to be an electric vehicle. I think they're pretty smooth. And the fact that I know while I'm driving it, I'm making a contribution to our environment. That to me is a powerful opportunity.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming, and Mayor, we're enjoying your city. Thank you so much for hosting us here.
I'm glad you said that. I want to welcome everyone to Denver. Enjoy it, spend as much money as you can.
Trying to remind you of these mayoral responsibilities.
That's right.
Telling people to spend money.
That's right.
But we are.
Good.
But I want to thank both of you, and we're using electricity too. So I want to thank both of you for coming. What you guys have been doing is really a model, and I appreciated the pointers you both gave on what constitutes a successful process. I hope everybody heard that. There's a lot of common sense in there, but I really do appreciate the conversation and both of you coming, and I will excuse you from the stage.
Can I take 1 minute first?
Well, you can take a minute. You're going to sign something.
Yes.
Yeah, we are. So
I forgot about this.
well, this is really important
I'm not
because
reading my script.
this is the next step. Everything we've talked about so far are what we've been working on over the years. We have developed an Energy Future Collaboration Partnership, a memo of understanding that will take this the next level. And I brought an executable copy of this with me, Mr. Mayor. I think your team has reviewed this.
Yes, for quite some time, actually.
Is anybody here from the law department?
What's the name of it?
The Energy Future Collaboration.
Just so that you all knew what it was.
Did you get a head nod?
Huh?
Did you get a head nod that it's okay?
Yeah.
All right. So while you're signing, this really is a major step forward, and Denver's the second city that we've done this with. We think it's replicable. It's a way for Denver to, obviously the largest city we serve and partner with, but it's a way to set an example for other communities across Colorado. There's a diversity of what communities want. This gives us the flexibility to work individually, but this partnership will create a lot more power. And our next step is we're planning to have legislation introduced this year that will help provide direction to our Public Utilities Commission to give us more flexibility, whether it's community solar gardens, an addition to our resource plan, as a wind resource for Denver, et cetera, to give us the flexibility to be able to help the city accomplish its worthy goals. So it's going to be a great step.
Proud to be part of that.
Good move.
Thank you very much, Mr.